Good evening. This is CTV News for Thursday, January 11th. I'm Patricia Vallone.
And I'm Denise Douglas. So glad you could join us this evening. An altercation inside of Prince George's High School leads to 2 students being stabbed. It happened this morning in a hallway at Central High School in Capitol Heights. Investigators say 3 students began arguing when one of them pulled out a small knife and cut the other 2. Police say the injuries are non-life threatening. There was a heavy police presence at the school when the lockdown also took place during that period.
After that confrontation, the individual who was possessing the knife turned himself in to the leadership of the school. And that individual is currently having conversations with my investigators. The 2 students that were wounded were transported to a local hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. They are receiving treatment at this point, and they are expected to recover. The situation in the school, again, is stable. Students have been returned to their classrooms. There are not fights going on in the school.
We have additional school security here. We have plenty of police officers and other supports here. And the school is, as the chief said, kids are in classrooms. It is stable. Everything is, safe inside the school. We're going to, continue, as the chief said, to make sure that we know all of the dynamics of what happened this morning.
Officials say the injured students were treated and released to their parents. The investigation into what sparked the incident continues.
The Maryland delegates vote to override Governor Hogan's veto on a sick leave bill, 88 to 52, 3 votes more than the minimum needed in the House. The bill now goes to the Senate, where it's expected to be heard as early as tomorrow. The measure gives employees at businesses with 15 or more workers the right to earn 5 paid days of sick leave annually. Last year, it passed the Senate with 29 votes, the minimum needed to override. Senate President Mike Miller expects a battle in the chamber, but predicts the votes will be there. Since killing the bill last session, Hogan has proposed compromise legislation that would give businesses incentives to provide paid leave. Well, some states are facing a loss of funding for their children's health insurance program in mid-January, despite spending approval by Congress in late December to keep the program running for 3 months. Federal health officials say that the $2.85 billion was supposed to fund CHIP programs through the end of March. But some states will start running out of money after January 19th, according to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Maryland legislative leaders say it's a top priority issue this season.
We know right now that 142,000 Maryland kids are going to be off the health care rolls if the federal government doesn't act. So we're not going to leave here with 142,000 children of Marylanders, most from working families where mother's single head of household, without health care insurance for their children. We've prided ourselves on doing that. We hope the federal government comes through. But if not, we have to take that up.
And the CHIP program provides health coverage to 9 million children from lower-income households that make too much to qualify for Medicaid. Federal officials have not said which states could freeze enrollment and soon shut down.
Patty, we are just 11 days into the new year, and Governor Larry Hogan is taking aim at ending corruption in the state's prisons and correctional system.
That's right. CTV's Katira Jones is joining us now in the studio here with that story.
Yes, well, Governor Hogan is really knocking down crime. He really wants to push crime out of the state of Maryland. Yeah. After a year-long investigation, Maryland state prosecutors announced new indictments in a prison corruption case. 18 defendants, ranging from ages 25 to 56 years old, are charged with conspiracy, bribery, and smuggling illegal drugs, cell phones into Jessup Correctional Facility. In terms of who is involved, there are 2 correctional officers, 6 inmates, and 10 outside facilitators.
Resulted in the recovery of guns and drugs, including heroin, cocaine, Suboxone. If you remember, we tried to get Suboxone strips off the list. We did for a year. Now the strips are back on. So when you look at the evidence up here, you look at those Suboxone strips. #1 piece of contraband coming into our facilities. And this fuels prison violence by creating an illicit narcotics market. We also recovered numerous cell phones that allow inmates and accomplices to operate their enterprise.
Let me be very clear. We have absolutely no tolerance whatsoever for corruption of any kind in our state prison system or anywhere else in state government. To anyone who engages in criminal behavior, make no mistake about it, we will find you, we will arrest you, and we will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law.
Tough words there from Governor Hogan. The Jessup Correctional Institute has about 1,800 inmates and 400 officers.
Now, Kateri, like you said, Governor Hogan, one of his top priorities has been fighting crime.
Yes.
Since he took office, how much has he spent on crime fighting?
$7 billion. In the last 3 years, his administration has been fighting crime.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that information.
Thank you.
Now, the Russian threat to America's national security presents a clear and present danger. That's the finding of a Senate report commissioned by Senator Ben Cardin, who says the report spells out tactics that Vladimir Putin has used to ascend to power in Russia, including corruption, cyber attacks, and the use of the military. Cardin, the ranking member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, says Putin is using those same devices to undermine democracies and accuses President Trump of ignoring the Russian threat.
I think the more the American public and the international community understand Mr. Putin's grand designs, the more they're going to demand that we have a coordinated effort. We respond to an episode. He invades Ukraine, so we impose sanctions on Ukraine. He attacks our country in the elections, and we get outraged about that. He's in UK dealing with the Brexit vote, or he's in Germany trying to interfere in their elections, or he tries to finance a coup in Montenegro. But we have to understand this is part of a grand design. So I hope we'll take that just for what it is, that we have to be prepared for this grand attack on democratic institutions and have a strategy that can counter that.
That report includes 30 recommendations, including one that would require social media companies to make public the sources of their funding for political advertisements. Investigators have identified the person killed in a car accident in Temple Hills Wednesday night. 52-year-old Sean Sims was pronounced dead following a two-car collision on Branch Avenue. Police say the crash happened after 8 p.m. Sims was traveling northbound when he struck another vehicle crossing the intersection. The driver of the second vehicle was taken to the hospital with critical injuries. Anyone with information on this incident is asked to call 301-731-4422.